Hello. Good afternoon. Today I'm gonna be talking about I don't know where do I look? Do I look at myself or do I look at the camera? Probably the camera. Yeah, probably the camera. Today I'm gonna talk about how making friends is harder for some people than others. Can I say making friends was hard for me particularly? Not really, but like the difference is like I wasn't looking for friends that were going to, I guess, like uplift me or be what a friend should be. I was just looking for other bodies to be around, if you understand what I mean. Um, but my mistake was not looking for those people. Um, so, which brings me into the topic of conversation why making friends is hard for some people because they feel like they can't, not particularly trust, but they can't really open up to people as much as they want to or should be able to, because of how I guess those people would think of them. But which is like, which makes your friend not a friend, you know? But that is what it is. And I particularly found it hard because I always had the idea that I needed people to like me. You know, I needed people to say good stuff about me. I needed somebody that was going to, well, not just somebody, but multiple people, like even friend groups, you know, that was going to have good things to say about me without me having to speak for myself, if you understand what I mean. And that's the kind of false personality I built for myself within my friendships. Um, and I lived with that for a minute, you know, and over time, you end up not being the person that they, see in you so much. You know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, the person that you show them to be like, that's still you. It's just not constantly, you know? And if you were somebody in my position that was showing that effort constantly, they're just going to think that you're that constant being. I guess that constant person that's just like that's just you, you know. Um, and again, like it's hard to make friends not because of the friends that you chose, but because of you. You know, it's your fault that you don't have the right people around you. Maybe you feel that there's nobody around you that could understand you. Maybe you feel that there's nobody around you that has the same interests as you know, or somebody that you could really just connect with conversationally, you know. But that's the issue in life, you know. That's what the big thing is. You're supposed to go out and look for that and find that. And the more you wait to do that, the harder it gets because everybody has already made their connections. Um, I learned to kind of change myself to get along with people through elementary school. You know, it's always the little days because that's when it's like that's when you really notice whether or not uh, you'll be somebody that like connects with everybody else around you. And of course, you know, it hurt a lot as a kid to be the one kid with like no, I guess you could say, no friends, you know. um and that situation, I mean, and I feel like I never really had the, and the thing is, again, like, the only thing I could blame myself is because people never got the, I guess you could say, feeling that I looked like I needed friends, because I've always been very well connected with my family members, my cousins, and I those were really my friends, you know. So everything I had that was given like friendship wise, that was given like real connection wise, was to them, you know. And I really didn't have the need in me to build a connection with anybody outside of my home environment, you know. Um, so I guess that's the feeling that kind of alienated me from everyone else, because I just wasn't, I just didn't like, I wasn't appearing to anybody that I needed their comfort, you know. Um, and I was never the person to try and go to somebody and appeal to their comfort so I can get something out of them. Some people just have that built in them, you know. Some people just have that mentality in them. You know what I mean? Uh, it is what it is. There's really nothing you could do about it. That's just another human quality. Um, but now, growing older, you know, it's tiring. You know, it's tiring. It's boring. It's all the words combined, because I feel like I don't have anybody to connect with. You know, and that's that's something that everybody needs. That's something that everybody needs. Somebody outside of your immediate group or your immediate family to sit down and just talk to without any feelings holding back, you know, without any awkwardness, you know. And I feel like the world nowadays, it neglects people from showing emotion. You know, it's like showing emotion in any way possible is like a bad thing. But in reality, emotion is like it's a human process, you know. It's a human thing that everybody goes through, and it's not a bad thing. It's just a sign that somebody needs help in a certain area. Um and I feel like as people, we should all be nurturing to each other, because one day, even if you go your whole life without feeling, because there are also people that do that, like, even if you go through your whole life without feeling a single emotion, one day something will hit you hard, you know. And when that thing hits, it's like, if you have nobody around you to comfort you, you won't know how to comfort yourself, you know. And at the end of the day, people like to say, oh, you got to deal with your problems alone, and you got to da 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 da. Yeah, of course. But when you don't know how to deal with your problems alone, it's better to have somebody in your corner, you know. And if you don't have anybody in your corner, it's going to be a bad time. Um, so, yeah, making friends is hard. Making friends is hard because you don't know who to choose. You don't know who to choose, and you don't know who's going to give you shit for it, you know? Because there are just people that are so stuck in their own world and so content in their own space that they are going to push out and ridicule everything around them that isn't their main people that they're comfortable with, you know? And selfish, yeah, but can you blame them? You know, if it's so hard to find those people, obviously you would want to do anything to keep them or do anything to not mess up that kind of, vision. Um, yeah. So doing everything alone is not healthy. It's not healthy because at the end of the day, yeah, you might feel accomplished. Yeah, you might feel like you know yourself so well, and you might feel like you've done a lot for yourself, but you have nobody to celebrate it with, you know? You have nobody to share that accomplishment with. You have nobody to open up to about your travels through that whole accomplishment that you've had in building yourself, you know? Um and people I feel like people nowadays are not even open to conversations like that. Um People out nowadays are just, I don't know. I don't understand why. Well, I can't really say I don't understand because at the end of the day I'm not other people. I'm myself, and whoever's watching this video, you're yourself, you know? But I personally can't understand, in my opinion, can't understand why people are not as open, are not as sorry, excuse me, are not as connecting. Because at the end of the day, I understand that everybody puts up their own shell, everybody puts up their own walls, Um and for me again, and me personally, like putting up that wall is such a hard thing for me to do. Like putting up that shell is so excruciatingly tiring. It's so tiring. And I might be different than the people around me. I could understand that, but there's no way that they don't feel at least a minuscule of what I feel when I put up a wall like that, where I'm pushing everybody out, and I'm not being open, and I'm not being myself. I'm just showing everybody who they should think I am, you know? And I guess it's because, people are afraid of judgment. People are afraid of being ridiculed. People are afraid of being shown to light, if you could say that. But at the end of the day, it's not about being shown to light. It's not about being ridiculed. It's about being you, and people are supposed to accept you for you. I feel like the plot has just been completely lost in that. Completely lost in that. Like nobody nobody wants to accept you for who you are. They want to accept you for what you can do, you know? They want to accept you for, like, for instance, if this guy's funny, if this person is funny, I'm going to accept you into my group because you're a funny person. Not because of your other qualities, not because of your kind, or not because of, you know, literally the things that make up a human being. Not because of anything else, but the sole fact that your comedic, comedic area, your comedic sound to me in the back of my mind. So I'm just gonna keep you here because that's what you should be doing, you know? And when you treat somebody like that, what do they become in them, like, to themselves? They don't feel like a person anymore. They just feel like that comedic broken record. You know what I mean? Like, you're just there to tell jokes. Nobody really cares about, I don't know, like what's going on in your life. Like, what, like, if your grandmother is, God forbid, but sick or something like that, nobody's gonna ask you how you're feeling. Nobody's gonna, you know, comfort you in your life, or nobody's going to even try to understand you. And they expect you to be there for them, you know? So it's a lot of problems. It's a lot of problems that us as people have, that we've been had since the beginning of literally history. Like, all these issues that I'm talking about are things that people have always had, and I feel like it's never going to be fixed, because obviously a cycle can't be fixed if nobody wants to change, But it's good to talk about it because these are real issues, These are real life problems that that nobody wants to, I guess, deep dive in because they're afraid of it. But in reality, it's nothing you should be afraid of, because it's you. It's the parts that make you you. Why would you be afraid of it? Why would you want to shell? Why would you want to build that wall? Why would you want to output somebody else that you're not? You know? And it tends to be like they always say, like, the loudest person is always like the saddest person inside. You get the I think they call it idiom, whatever it is, but you get what it is. Like, that person, that loudest person, I feel like the only reason why they're so loud is because there's nobody checking in on them, Like,